how many downloads of Jim and Bill It's Another Day podcast?
Today, the podcast show has fetched 400 million downloads since its start, and an average of 350,000 downloads per episode, about 3.9 million downloads per week.
Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Cup of coffee in hand, Right Side Coffee that is, and it's good stuff. You need to go to the rightsideshop.com. Order yours today. Good medium roast coffee. Great way to start your day. We've also got decaf in case, you don't want to be as jacked as I am, really up-tempo guy.
And you are jacked in the morning, I'll tell you. This guy, He's ready to go as soon as we start recording. It's amazing. Right Side Coffee, made from the finest coffee beans available, and they are roasted to perfection. You can get them on our website, like Bill said, at rightsideshop.com, and it's something you got to taste for yourself to find out. It's worth at least trying one bag of Right Side Coffee, because we're pretty confident you'll come back for more. rightsideshop.com, rightsideshop.com. It's Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee. No other kind of Right Side Coffee. Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee. It's worth a cup. And also, we entertain you with that magnificent. It goes from being a group of four to a group of five to a group of three. The size of the what do they call it? The border crossers. It seems to vary based upon who's in town.
I think some of them. I think they have a rotating day off system, where
is that what it is? I thought they were like being shipped to different cities on airplanes. I could be wrong, but
I noticed one had a goatee yesterday, and he doesn't today.
That's really
that somebody else?
No, it's the same guy. He just shaved. It's amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
Someone got him a razor. But anyway, they're here right now, and they're going to sing for us, guys. If you would,
wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee. See, you could have me singing. No.
Yeah, we could.
Yeah, we won't. Anyway.
We could, but yeah.
Lots to talk about. It was a busy day yesterday, wasn't it, in the news? A lot of things happened.
It was. But there's a lot more that's going to happen. You would think that, okay, it's going to wind down. Trump will be in on Monday.
Yep.
I know he's going to have a busy day Monday because he's going to do at least 100 executive orders. And you got to think that the executive orders he did the last time around that Biden undid, he'll probably go back and re-implement those, and then plus everything else he's going to do. He is going to have writer's cramp by the end of the day so bad, but he'll be a happy man.
Then he has to go to the inaugural balls. So he's going to be sworn in, and I guess they then motorcade up to the White House? Is that how it works for?
Yeah, and I think in the motorcade, didn't they say they're going to have the Trump garbage truck? So along the way, Pelosi, get in there now.
Exactly.
Ship, back
exactly. I never thought of that, Bill. That's exactly why he has the garbage truck. He's going to pick up the trash.
Yeah. Okay, guys, go take this to the dump.
Yeah. It's going to be 12 noon. Do you think, are they going to do it inside or outside? They say it's going to be one of the coldest days in recent time in Washington. What do you think?
That's a tough one. Traditionally, it's outside, but
Ronald Reagan had a historically cold day, and he did his inside, so it would be interesting.
Well, and there's security issues, too.
Yes, there are. Lots of them. Yeah. I don't know how they're going to protect them, to be honest with you. How do you protect somebody? It's out in the open, Bill, and they're surrounded by buildings. Will they have somebody in every window of every one of those buildings?
When you try to think of everywhere to hide and every crack and nook to cover up, there's always one crack, one nook, or one window that was forgotten about. Who the hell would have?
I think you were trying to say nook and cranny.
Nook and cranny, yeah. Yes, I couldn't remember, Is that Alzheimer's?
Somehow it slipped into nookie. I don't know how that works.
I wasn't saying nookie. I wasn't even thinking about nookie, but now that you have it on my mind, I won't get it out.
It's going to be one of those
days.
Thanks,
Nookie.
Anyway, the 12 o'clock inauguration, apparently they don't have to be out of the White House until 12 noon. And I guess there's like a staff of people that go in and just move them out and then they have to bring all the Trump stuff in. They put new carpeting in. They paint the walls. They replace the mattresses and box springs in the beds and stuff so that they have all fresh stuff. I mean, it's amazing what they do in a short period of time. And when the Trumps get there, it'll look like it's been theirs forever. I think I heard they have like 90 people working on this crew. Do you know that?
Well, Jill and Joe are going to wait until the last damn minute to vacate.
Yes, they are. I see
slow
what
down.
Jill says. Jill's a little despondent because Melania turned down the tea. I guess they have a traditional First Lady's tea when the First Lady welcomes the new First Lady to the White House. But I think Melania is just about fed up with that kind of stuff, especially from people who don't really mean it.
It's amazing, too, because Melania is more involved this time around than she was the last time. She kind of sat back, and now she's doing interviews. She's very forefront about it, and she's letting her feelings be known.
I don't blame her. The first time around, she didn't move into the White House for 5 months because she was taking care of Barron in New York in their property down in Mar-a-Lago. This time around, she's moving right in. She's going to be right there.
They attacked her so badly the last time around. I wouldn't have come around either. But this time around, she's, she knows who and what they are.
Yeah.
And pretty tough broad.
Well, I think she's going to be
a lady. I shouldn't say broad. That was a bad choice.
Yeah, it's a very bad choice of words. You should slap yourself, would you please?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. The big news yesterday was I don't know. They say it's a treaty, a peace treaty in Gaza. I don't think it's going to happen. Now, I didn't think it was going to happen when I watched it yesterday on TV because they were talking about a 30-to-1 trade. What? A 30-to-1 trade. Do you know what that means? They would get 30 Hamas people who are in jail, including some of the worst leaders.
For one hostage.
Or body. Either or. They're going to be shipping bodies, too. These people, and by the way, they're not shipping all of them. Everybody doesn't leave. This is going to be the first round. If I were Trump, seriously, I would say, and I think he's going to say this, all right, we were being kind and giving you an out. You have 24 hours. Or he'll say you have until the inauguration at 12 noon to give us everybody peacefully, or we're going to come in there and get them, and you won't like how we do it.
I think he should do that. I really do.
I think he will. I really do. Now, last minute, right? We talked about this off the air. Between last night and now, there's already been a snag. And Hamas is, I guess there's a delay now in the ceasefire. What happened was, from what I understand, is Hamas agreed to something, and Israel said, okay, that's fine, that's good. It's a done deal.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Then last night, Hamas said, no, we don't agree to it. After they agreed to it and after all the announcements were made.
Well, let me ask you a question. I mean, Trump was working on things, but he didn't say anything about it. The media was jumping on it, saying, this is going to happen. And then Joe runs out and says that we have a deal.
Right.
He takes credit for it. I think one lady asked if it was really the work of Trump, and he looks, is that a joke?
Yeah.
And then, shortly after that, things fall apart. I'm wondering if Joe is the reason that it's kind of falling apart, because he goes, I got to take credit for this, and he jumped in too soon. It was too early to sit there and make any kind of announcement.
Joe desperately wants to have a legacy. He's not going to get one because people know that for 440 days, they couldn't negotiate a sandwich, okay? Then all of a sudden, Trump goes on the media not too long ago and says, here's how it's going to be. If you don't release our prisoners by the time I'm sworn into office, there's going to be hell to pay. And all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, they have an agreement, supposedly. Now they're balking. I think that the problem they have right now is they don't have, and this is my opinion, I think that a lot of the the quote prisoners are gone. I
Oh,
think
yeah, they're dead.
I think a lot of the prisoners are already gone, and they don't have the bargaining chip they've been lying about for a year. Dear God, I hope I'm wrong, but I just don't trust them. I think they were wild, ruthless people. Can you imagine, by the way, if these people are still alive? They've been living in a tunnel for a year and a half.
Well, they probably died and rotted in the tunnels. I mean, and what would happen if we found out that these people are all dead and died a horrendous death?
Oh. Well, and here's the other thing. Netanyahu is between a rock and a hard spot. He has promised to get the hostages back, but he's also promised that Hamas will be no more. Now he's in a tough situation. He's negotiating a deal where Hamas continues to exist for a time being, at least.
Well, he has to. He's got to find out. There's always the chance that not everybody's coming back. There's the chance that nobody comes back or their bodies come back, or what's left of them. There's that chance, but you got to do it. But we shouldn't, or they shouldn't be releasing the prisoners until there is affirmation that there's something there. And if we find out it's corpses, then I would sit there and say, you know what? Deal's off. And I would start executing their prisoners right away, because that's the price of war. You don't need to give them back their leaders. And
by the way, these are Hamas terrorists we're talking about. We're not talking about just a bunch of guys that got off the field.
No,
these are guys who actually have designed the attacks.
Yeah. So that's why I would say if I found out the hostages were gone.
Well, don't you think they would have some kind of proof of life? Israel would say, look, we got to see that they're still alive. At least show us a video.
Well, yeah, but the video could be old.
Well, hold up a newspaper when you do it.
Yeah, you could, but I don't know. It's just there's something that's afoul about this, and we'll wait and see. Hopefully people can they'll get back hostages.
But it doesn't look good now that they've actually said there's a delay in the ceasefire.
Yeah, and that makes you wonder if the hostages are still alive.
These people can't be trusted.
What do you think?
I think that they're, God forgive me, I think that we're being hopeful as a civilized people. We're hoping that they're alive.
But what's the reality check?
I think that these people were ruthless. I think a lot of them who we thought were hostages have been dead since October 7th.
All right. So that being the case, what my feeling is on the prisoners. What's your feeling?
I think that Israel is probably in a situation where they can't just attack. They have got to prove that they're either alive or dead. So this is they're proving it now.
Okay.
I think
let's find out if you find out your hostages, the ones that you're waiting so desperately for, are gone.
Yes,
they perished.
Then they're going to go in there and it'll be bad. If
what
Hamas
happens to the prisoners though?
Well, I mean, what happens to the Hamas prisoners? They're not going to keep them forever. And but see, Israel is a civilized nation as opposed to other countries over there in the Middle East. Israel doesn't lop off heads like other countries do, and other organizations. So they may
civilized countries have had death penalties. I mean, you don't have to be brutal about it, but you got to sit there and say there are consequences for what you do.
So let's say they have 200. Let's say they have 100 Hamas prisoners. Do you just line them up and shoot them?
Or maybe you give them a trial.
Well,
but you're going to get some liberal attorney that's going to argue why this guy deserves life over the life he took. But I think if he took a life, at some point in time, you have to set humanity aside for a second. And I hate to say it that way, but You've got to sit there
See,
and
you're right. War is by nature violent.
yeah.
You cannot be doing what you're doing and be peaceful.
If they get away with it, and if you let them off the hook entirely or partially, they've gotten away with something, which means, well, we got away with that. What can we get away with
Right.
the next time? But if there are severe consequences, they're going to think twice and thrice before they do it again.
Well, I hope we're wrong. You asked me what I think is going to happen. I unfortunately think that they've lied to the Israeli people. When you have hostages over in some place, all you have is hope that they're still alive. Hope. And Israel, I think, has been living on that hope. And maybe now what they're doing is trying to prove that there's nothing to be hopeful for, or there is. They're trying to get affirmation that there are prisoners over there. I don't think that they've had that affirmation. I think they've only guessed. And it's sad. It doesn't just affect the prisoners, by the way. It affects all of their families. So if there's let's say there are 100 prisoners, there may be 10,000 people who either know and love them. Totally. I mean, that's so many good people are being affected by this. Israel is, I guess, doing what it has to do right now. It has to prove that either there are or there aren't prisoners. Enough of this. It's fish or cut bait time, And I think they put Hamas in a situation. Hamas, they have a ceasefire agreement, great. And then what they're going to do is they're going to jerk their chain as long as they can, because every day that goes by for Hamas that they're negotiating, they probably aren't fighting. The bombs aren't falling. So look, we can go. We can do this for another month or so, until that other tunnel we're building is completed, and we can go somewhere else. These are people, and they can't allow Hamas to continue, because Hamas, by the nature of who they are and what they do, they're going to, as soon as they get back into a position of authorities, they're going to start teaching their people again that the only good world is a world without Israel, and every Israeli has to be exterminated. That's what they've been teaching for forever, And Israel can't allow the young people in Hamas to grow up hating them for no good reason. Israel's they've got to start a new narrative going, and they know that if they put Hamas leaders back in, they'll never be able to do that. So this is not a done deal by any stretch of the imagination. And what we're hearing right now from all of these pontificating political people is a lot of nonsense. We don't have a deal yet. I won't be happy, Bill, until I see them get out of the car and shake hands and hug their families, if they're alive. But maybe this is I don't know. I just have my doubts. I have my doubts that we're being told the truth by Hamas. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I'm hoping that Israel. Maybe Israel has people on the inside in Hamas. Maybe they have a spy network that has already proven that they're alive, or maybe they have a spy network that has already told them that they're not, and this is the only way they can prove that
they got to flush it out.
Yeah,
we're not in the know, so we're going to have to wait and see how it goes. I guarantee, with how things transpired yesterday, something will develop today. It could be good, it could be bad. And when I say good, could be good, I don't know how you really say something good comes out of all this evil that has transpired.
Well, the good thing will be is, and by the way, excuse me, let me stop myself. Before I forget, the first batch of prisoners coming out of Gaza supposedly will include bodies. You would think, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. You would think the first thing we want live bodies first, and then we'll take the people who have been murdered by you people. We'll take them last. We want the live bodies.
I got a question. If you do the live bodies first and you don't see your loved one coming out, does that not bring the torment and anguish, stretch it out? Wouldn't you rather know who they are so you can begin the grieving right away, the anger, the grieving, get it over with? Let's find out who we don't have. Because then that gives you hope for what we do and who we do have.
Let's say they have 60 people and they're going to do 20 first, right? And the 20 will be a mixed bag of live and dead. I would say that you want the live ones all up front, because the sooner you get the live ones, back into a safe area, the better it is. Then, you become stronger with every new live body you bring back in to the fold. You know what I'm saying?
Then I would demand that they immediately release all the live bodies. That's it. Total count now on the door.
I agree.
And that's it. And for every 2 live bodies, you might get one hostage. See, I don't even know that we should release the hostage, our hostages.
Well, you have to have prisoners. A bargaining chip. You have to have, and by the way, 30-1 is a lousy deal, don't you think?
Yeah, that's dumb.
I mean,
favoring Hamas. That's kind of ridiculous. Well, we get which the question is, how many prisoners does Israel have?
That's a good point. They may have a bundle, but. They say this was a deal that was negotiated by Blinken, and it sounds like it. Blinken to me is a numbskull. What kind of the guy who should have negotiated this deal should have been Trump, because he's been negotiating deals his whole life.
How many hostages, alive or dead, does Hamas have?
I don't think it's. I think it's like 130 or something like that, or. Maybe I'm wrong.
Right. So a 30-1 ratio. If it's 130 times 30, that's how many Israel has then.
Well, it will be interesting. We'll know more by the end of the day. By the way, excuse me today. I'm fighting off a little allergy situation here, and I know I sound like I have a clothespin on my nose. Well, actually, I do, but that's besides the point. It's a little hobby of mine. I don't go anywhere without a clothespin. Anyway, other stuff that happened yesterday. We'll say a prayer, by the way, that the hostages are released and things go smoothly. But I just don't trust Hamas.
It'll be news. We'll be talking about it tomorrow, and we'll be going, oh, my God. It's probably what we're going to do.
Pam Bondi was in front of Congress yesterday, in front of the Senate. It was her hearing. And they tried to make her look bad. I mean, Mazie Hirono, she's everywhere. This lady's got to be one of the dumbest people up there ever. I used to think that being a senator equated to being somebody with intelligence, and then I saw Mazie Hirono. Then I saw Dick Durbin. Then I saw a bunch of them, actually. But Mazie Hirono was up there, and she was trying to put Pam Bondi in her place. Listen.
During the election. During the campaign. First, are the felons convicted of breaking into the Capitol on January 6th hostages or patriots, quoting Trump, as President-elect Trump has said repeatedly? Do you agree with his characterization of the felons that I referred to?
I am not familiar with that statement, Senator.
I just familiarized you with that statement. Do you agree with that statement?
I'm not familiar with it, Senator.
Okay, no answer. He has also said illegal immigration is poisoning the blood of our nation. He said that in December 2023. Do you agree with that statement?
Senator, I am not familiar with that statement, but what I can tell you is I went to the border a few months ago. I went to Yuma, Arizona, and what I saw at that border was horrific, Senator. It was horrific.
Ms. Bondi,
I went to a rape crisis center.
That is not my question.
I went to a rape crisis center. I'm not familiar with the statement, but I went to a rape crisis center. I met with Border Patrol agents. I'm sure you've been to the border as well. So
I want to get to my next question.
Mazie Hirono is the most ill-prepared senator up there. I mean, well, she's got some people who are close, but she is the most ill-prepared. Because you can see she's reading questions that her staff put together, and she's winging it. And with all due respect, she is a dipwad. I like that. That's a good that's a term that the younger people use, and it seems I don't really know what it means, but it seems to sum it up kind of nicely. She's a dipwad.
Well, it's probably the alternative to a dip,
Yeah, that's probably what it is. The talk between Macy and Pam Bondi continued.
That you, as Attorney General, should investigate one of his perceived political enemies. Would you do so?
Senator Hirono, I wish you had met with me. Had you met with me, we could have discussed many things and gotten to know.
I am listening to you now. Could you respond to the question?
Yeah, you were the only one who refused to meet with me, Senator. But what we would have discussed is that it is the job of the Attorney General to
I'm very
follow
happy to listen
the
to
law.
your responses under oath, Ms. Bondi. So I think it's really important to us that the Attorney General be independent of the White House. And you have a president-elect who considers the AG's office his law firm. I would like to know whether if the president suggests, hints, asks, that you as Attorney General should investigate one of his perceived enemies?
Senator, I certainly have not heard the president say that. But what I will tell you is 2/3 of Americans have lost faith in the Department of Justice. And it's statements like that, I believe,
Ms.
that make
Bondi.
people continue to lose faith. If I am confirmed as Attorney General, it will be my job
Getting
to
on
not
to my
only
next
keep
question,
America
you're not
safe,
responding.
but restore integrity to that department.
Why don't we
and that's
move
what
on
I
to
plan
something
on
that
doing
you said.
every single day as Attorney General.
On August 25th, 2025.
Oh, she's amazing. All she wants to do. And by the way, I would say, would somebody get me an interpreter for Macy Hironi, because she mumbles her questions, and I can't figure out what the heck she's talking about.
Well, neither can she. I mean, she sits there like that she's got the bombshell question. She didn't have a bombshell question, and we talked about it yesterday. Yes or no? Yes or no? Yes or no? You answer that question, yes or no. Even no is an admission that the question has validity. If the question is not valid, if you have no knowledge, you do exactly what she was doing. So, and I have no knowledge, because that is the legitimate answer. And to be told, you answer it the way we tell you to answer it, one way or the other.
It was gaslighting on the part of the left, the senators. All they did is, they have 5 minutes, and they literally take up almost all of it to just hear themselves talk. Here's Pam Bondi talking with Senator Schiff. That's right.
Oh, boy, that was a good one.
Listen.
Will it be your advice to the president? No, Mr. President, I need to go over them on a case-by-case basis. Do not issue blanket pardons. Will that be your advice to the president?
Senator, I have not looked at any of those files. If confirmed, I will look at the files.
And will you be able to review hundreds of cases on day one?
I will look at every file I am asked to look at.
Of course you won't. So will you advise the president?
Can I answer the question?
Well, my question
I would
is,
have plenty of staff. You said, of course you want.
You'll be able to review
Listen,
hundreds
I'm
of
not going to
cases on the first day?
mislead this body, nor you.
All right, let me ask another question. You don't want to answer that. Let me answer another question.
You were censured by Congress, Senator, for comments just like this that are so reckless.
See, here's the thing about Schiff, in my opinion. See, Schiff has been the consummate liar. He's been lying. Yeah. He's been lying since Russia. I think he has knowingly, deliberately misled investigations. And I think no matter what his position is right now, he's in jeopardy.
Well, they talked about insurrection. Is what he was doing right there, is it not a form of insurrection? Is it not a form of an attack that they're doing there? I mean, a lot of this stuff is getting ridiculous.
Yeah, well, she took care of him, and but I do have a feeling the Schiff is really worried that when Trump gets into office, there will be investigations that might include him, no matter whether no matter whether he's a senator or not. This guy is nervous right now. I don't care what anybody says. The arch nemesis of Adam Schiff is going to be the guy holding the gun, figuratively speaking, right now. And it's going to be a whole different ballgame. Alex Padilla, another senator, I think from California, he joined in on the Democratic, bandwagon to try to make Pam Bondi look ridiculous, which didn't work yesterday. She did a good job, but here's Alex Padilla trying to nail Pam Bondi.
Your job will be, I'm speaking, your job will be to protect voters and election workers, not to undermine and dox them. Now, I know that earlier you agreed that Joe Biden is in fact president, but many of the president-elect's inner circle continue to spread the big lie about the 2020 election. Then we'll move on to a different topic.
Senator, you were speaking. May I speak? You cut me off when I was speaking. When I ask you the next question, you can speak, and I hope you answer, Ms. Bondi. Well, I'd like to answer the previous one, Senator.
When we met yesterday,
you pointed your finger at me and said you were speaking. Let me answer my question. I'm not going to be bullied by you, Senator
Padilla. The 14th Amendment of the United States of America, which was deeply disappointing.
I guess you didn't want to hear my answer about Pennsylvania.
After I gave an opportunity to study overnight. So can you tell me in this committee what the Citizenship Clause of the 14th Amendment says?
Senator, I'm here to answer your questions. I'm not here to do your homework and study for you. If I am confirmed as Attorney General...
You're the one asking for a confirmation vote,
you cut me off. Can I please finish?
What does the 14th Amendment say?
Senator, the 14th Amendment, we all know, addresses birthright citizenship. I've been a state prosecutor. I've been a state AG. I look forward to, even given your remarks today, working with you and the people of California if I am confirmed as the 87th Attorney General of the United States of America. I didn't take your homework assignment. I'm sorry. I was preparing for today.
This guy, just like all of the left senators up there, they were trying to stonewall her, and it didn't work. It did not work. She was very capable of taking care of these, and dare I say, numbskulls. No one showed an iota of common sense and intelligence on the left. I'm sorry. I know you. If you are somebody who is leans left, I think you got to be wondering yourself who the heck you're rooting for, because your team's got some ding-dongs on it. Case in point, Dick Durbin. Listen to this one.
He said to the Georgia Secretary of State, find 11,780 votes.
Do you have the entire context of that call? I feel like it was much longer than that, and may have been taken out of context.
It was an hour long, and
right.
You can certainly listen to it. I hope you will.
See, he was trying to nail her, and she said, do you have the entire context of that call? It was an hour long. Well, see, there you go, you ding-dong.
I hope you listened to it, and, yeah. Well, you know what? Did you listen to it, sir?
Pam also talked with Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island. This guy's another dingbat. He's the guy, I believe. I think I got it wrong. There are two senators from Rhode Island, Jack Reed and Sheldon Whitehouse. And Jack Reed was on the Hegseth hearing committee. And I said that, I might have said, maybe I didn't, maybe it was maybe off the air, but I mentioned that he was a member of a racist yacht club in Rhode Island. I think it was not Jack Reed.
Talked about it yesterday.
Yeah, it was. I had the wrong senator from Rhode Island. I believe it was Sheldon Whitehouse, who's a member of the mostly white yacht club in Rhode Island, which is kind of unusual. Rhode Island is a very, left-leaning state, and but they have their little pockets, I guess, of racial divide, and I guess that yacht club was one of those. Anyway, here's Pam Bondi taking care of Sheldon Whitehouse.
And it would not be appropriate for a prosecutor to start with a name and look for a crime. It's a prosecutor's job to start with a crime and look for a name, correct?
Senator, I think that is the whole problem with the weaponization that we have seen the last 4 years and what's been happening to Donald Trump. They targeted Donald Trump. They went after him, actually starting back in 2016. They targeted his campaign. They have launched countless investigations against him. That will not be the case if I am Attorney General. I will not politicize that office. I will not target people simply because of their political affiliation. Justice will be administered even-handedly throughout this country. Senator, we've got to bring this country back together. We've got to move forward, or we're going to lose our country.
I think his jaw dropped. Because he walked her down a path. He didn't want to walk her down, but she seized the opportunity. And, the thing is, Bill, she can say what you just said. She can say, I'm not going to weaponize that Justice Department because she won't have to. There have been so many laws broken with lawfare that she will be busy just doing the real cases.
Well, the Democrats wanted to put each person on defense. She wasn't on defense. She was, hitting them with her opposition. And she didn't have to answer those questions the way they wanted her to answer them.
No, and she didn't. She didn't. She was really.
She put them on the defense.
No, I think she has a second round today.
Yeah.
And they're going to be shorter. The questioning was 5 minutes. I guess they'll all get 4 minutes in the next round.
Whoop-de-doo. Still going to be the same stuff.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch. I got a bag of popcorn ready.
All they need to do is get one trip from the left, and that'll be all over the news all day long. I got you there. And it's like, no, you've never gotten, but that's what they're looking for, that aha moment.
John Radcliffe was also up there for a hearing, and Adam Schiff, I believe, was on that committee too. And they bounce around because they're just trying to get in front of the camera, these guys. And John Radcliffe kind of set Adam Schiff straight, too. Listen.
In 2020, when a chairman of an intelligence committee misrepresented that a laptop owned by then candidate Biden's son was somehow a Russian intelligence operation, and 51 former intelligence officials used the imprimatur of IC authority to go along with that. I stood in the breach. I stood alone and told the American people the truth about that. So I think my record in terms of speaking truth to power and defending the intelligence community and its good work is very clear. And what I can assure you is those types of instances, if I'm in that position as CIA director and have to do that again, as uncomfortable as that can be, to be accused, the truth will ultimately defend itself, and I think that intelligence will as well.
John Radcliffe, he's up for the CIA director, and he was talking. He was answering a question. He was saying, in case you didn't pick up on it, he was saying, I was the sole person to stand up for the truth when a hearing, or did he say committee man or a leader of a committee? Anyway, he was talking about Adam Schiff when he was in the House. Now Adam Schiff is a senator, and he was literally telling him to his face that he was the only guy, meaning Radcliffe was the only guy, to stand up to Schiff's lies, his lies about Russia. All the while Schiff was kind of like melting in his seat. Like, what do I do now? It's kind of fun to watch. It is long and boring. I feel for these people, Bill. These people who are being judged by these senators. Use the word loosely. It's got to be tough because the questioning they can handle, but listening to like Mazie Hirono pontificate, it's like, oh my dear God, would somebody get? There should be some kind of a real requirement to be a U.S. senator, not just you get enough votes. You have to pass a test. You can't mumble through 6 years as a U.S. senator. 6 years of Mazie Hirono? Yeah. Anyway, you were saying something?
Well, I mean, there should be some kind of litmus test when you get in, or at least like magistrate judges, they have to go through a course. There's got to be some fundamental knowledge that you have to have, whether before or once you get in. It's a requirement. But these people, once they get in, they don't leave because they get, financial political favor. And that's what, now we're not talking about the term limits because we're doing all of these hearings, but, the term limits were brought up, and that is something that I think has to happen.
I think they should. I think they should actually, in all honesty, they should say, "Look, we're going to make representatives a 4-year job. Because as soon as they get into office, by the way, as soon as these guys become representatives and go to Washington, they're already planning their next campaign because they have to start campaigning like a year before the election. So they're already working on their next job, their next election. What they should say is, look, you get 4 years as a representative, and we're going to cut the senator down to 4 years too. You get 4 and 4. You don't get 6 for the Senate and 2 for the House. Maybe that worked in 1780 or 1790, but it doesn't work nowadays. We'll give you 4 years in the House, and maybe you say you can only be in the House for 2 terms, 8 years. That's a lot of time. It's long enough. You made your point. If you can't make your point in 8 years, gone. The same thing for the Senate too. These people go there for life. These people go.
Well, that's the other problem is that the longer their stint is, and the more they can win time after time after time, that sets us up to where you can go in there and rig an election. You can go in there and you can have a party that takes control and get deeply rooted into Washington, and nothing gets done for the people. Yeah. You've got to sit there and turn over, just put it bluntly, you got to turn over the bodies. And so I'm all for, 2 terms or maybe 3-year terms, and that's it for Congress. So there's a changing of the guards during a presidency, because what you don't want to have is, him locked into, or she locked into the opposition all the way through.
Maybe that's why they do it now. Maybe it's 2 years in the House because they figure you have to have the possibility of a change during a presidency.
And that's fine, but I wouldn't go more than 6 years, and 6 years is a good stint. In other words, you got 3 terms, so you can go 1, 2, 3, but you're done.
Well, you say 3. You say 3 and 3. You said 3 terms of 3. I said 2 terms of 4, which is only a year difference. But in total,
I actually think the 3-2 would be the best. Although you're right, they are running, but there needs to be campaign reform too, because they spend a year going out and buying votes, and there should be you should win the popularity by your actions. And they say, okay, the last 4 months or 5 months of your term, you can get out and get involved with campaigning. That's it, because you should have been on the ground doing your work.
The other thing is this. Radio stations and TV stations make a bundle off of political ads. Mm-hmm. They give them a lower rate, but you can see it for yourself. They're always putting a political ad on the air during a political season. What they should do is they should mandate by by law that you have to give so many minutes to each candidate every month.
Don't they do that in Canada?
I do not know, but they, you shouldn't have to have the private sector fund these candidates, because what happens is you get a lot of guys who get the support of rich people who have a self-serving reason for backing the person. Meaning, let's say you get a candidate who's a numbskull, but the guy will do anything to be in that office. So he's easily manipulated. So someone with a bundle of money can come along and say, "Look, I need that road that was supposed to go through my property. I need to go through the guy down the street's property. So if I back you, will you make it go down? Sure, no problem. Just give me all the money. That's corruption, but it happens all the time. It happens all the time.
Political PACs.
Yeah.
They do a lot of damage too.
Those should go, Bill. Political action
committees
should
be gone.
Yeah, that's another thing. There has got to be election reform, but the problem is we're asking the wolves not to raid the hen house. We're saying to Congress, well, you got to put term limits together, and you got to get rid of political action committees. And while you're at it, why don't you make it so that you can't lobby for maybe 4 or 5 years after you've been out of office, all right? I mean, you just can't go right into another high-paying job in D.C. We're asking the wolves, the congressmen, to do the right thing, and it will affect them. And they're not going to do it. It's just not going to happen. So, and the president can't do it. The president can't say I'm doing an executive order saying Congress has to be, every 3 years and 2 terms. You can't do it. So I don't know how it'll ever get fixed because these people are in Washington for one reason: self-service, to take care of their own selves. They're not there. They get up in front of cameras. They talk about they're there to serve the people and to make things better for the world. But God, friends, that's in my life, and I've been around for a while now. I don't know of anybody who really goes to D.C. to do that. It's just that there are some that are better at presenting a false image than others. There's the guys, I think, for example, and he's probably a nice guy. He's probably a nice guy. Jim Jordan, right? All right. He doesn't get in front of a camera unless he takes off his sports coat and rolls up his sleeves. Literally. He has to look like he's working for the people, and he's not there to wear the company uniform. But in all honesty, friends, like so many other congressmen, it's like they're all huff and no puff. It's like they just promise the world they're going to fix it. Damn it, we're going to investigate that, and we're going to have a hearing for that, and this is going to change, and we're going to get Hunter Biden, and we're going to do this, and then nothing happens. Nothing. I sit around and I think, I like most viewers, I watch them on TV and I'm getting excited. Like, oh, finally, the House is going to do something right. They're going to bring the hammer down, and they're saying it right up to the deadline, and then nothing happens. Nothing happens. It's like
telling you what you want to hear, but then they do what they want to do.
It's like, do you remember, Bill? This happened just after the 2020 election, like a year and a half after the 2020 election, and it's not the House. It's different. It was in Arizona, but again, politicians. They decided they were going to have an audit in Arizona. I'll never forget this, and they had cameras everywhere in this audit room. It was a big deal. The Arizona audit. Oh my God, it's going on now as we speak, and if they find out what we think they're gonna find out, so and so is gonna be the new governor, and it'll be Kerry Lake, and everybody's waiting around. And they had the audit, and we must have watched them for like days, and then they came to a conclusion. They found out that there were anomalies in the election, and that was it.
Yeah.
Nothing happened. The other thing, Bill, I was thinking about this morning. What I've learned over the last 4 years, and I think a lot of our listeners probably feel the same way, is there are a lot of BS artists out there who get in front of a microphone and spread nonsense. You and I, honest to God, I think what makes our program attractive to a lot of people is that we're just two guys. We're just two normal guys who pay attention, do our homework, and tell you what we, honest to God, really think. There are some guys out there, and I'm not going to say names because I don't want to embarrass anybody, but there's one guy who I have listened to in the past, and I thought, wow, this guy's rock solid. He's a good thinker. And I've kept listening to the guy, and he was early on. This guy who had a military background was saying we're on the verge of World War III, and this is going to happen, and no matter what happens here, this is going to happen. And I'm actually getting kind of nervous because with his background, he really sounded like he knew what he was talking about. But then his deadlines ended. His deadlines passed, and nothing happened. And then you realize that a lot of these guys who pontificate and have an opinion, they're full of gas. They are just full of gas. And then, I used to think this guy was in Washington as a military man during President Trump's administration, and he did work for a while with Trump, but he didn't have the upper echelon position that he should have had, you would have thought. And you wonder why. And then you start to think, wait a second, he was wrong in everything he told us over the last 4 years. Maybe it's because Trump realized this guy is... he has a big opinion of himself, and he's usually wrong. John Bolton, I'll mention his name because everybody talks about John Bolton. He's not a military guy, but God, if you hear him talk, you think, boy, he knows what he's talking about. Except that you realize that everything he wants to do is involving war. Trump said at one point he would bring Bolton into a meeting with an adversary just to scare him, because when the adversary realized that Bolton was in the room, it would indicate that Trump was thinking about going to war. Trump knew that, and he used it to his benefit. But there are a lot of guys like that. There are a lot of people. The internet brings you a lot of great people, but it also brings you a lot of empty suits, a lot of people who are just vacuous when it comes to substance, And if you listen, I can think of guys. There are guys. Right after the election, we were all desperate for a positive message, and there were people out there who knew that, and they tried to make a buck on it. And for a while, like about a year or so, there became these like overnight internet celebrities that everybody was listening to. Have you listened to so-and-so today? Ooh, you didn't know who so-and-so was a year ago, but now he's important. And then you realize the guy's empty. He has nothing. And especially now, 4 years later, there was one guy, I'll mention one guy, and maybe he's a nice man. I don't know. I'm not trying to, but there was a guy, I'll mention this guy's name. There's a guy named Simon Parks that had quite a following. I don't know if you ever heard of the guy or not, Bill, but he had quite a following right after the 2020 election. He lives in England, but he had a real opinion about what was going to happen over here. And he started to sound like a soothsayer. You know what a soothsayer is? He's a fortune teller, a predictor of things that hadn't happened yet. But he supposedly had contacts on the inside. And he kept making these predictions, by next Tuesday, by next Wednesday. And, when you're desperate for a positive message, he was filling that positive message. People were flocking to his podcast until people started to realize that he was full of hot air.
Yeah, but he gave them what they wanted to hear and that hope, and that's what he was selling.
Yeah. Well, I guess the thing I've learned over the past 4 years is to be selective with my allegiance, with my, I think what you and I do, and I think, by the way, we've been lucky because by doing this, you and I have had to pay attention to the truth. We've had to pay attention to what really is going on because we haven't allowed ourselves the luxury of wandering off into the weeds, following theories, and we have our own interesting theories on certain things, but we kind of give you a heads up. Usually, we'll tell you we're doing it. Here's what we think may happen. But the fact of the matter is, most of the stuff you hear on our program, it's honest to God, it's the news. It's right off the news cycles. It's not something which is conjecture. You asked me today, what do you think's going to happen with the hostages? I told you right off the bat, it's my opinion. I hope I'm wrong. But some of these guys say, no, they have the answer. That's the whole thing. They'll tell you that I have it from a good source that this is going to happen. Name the friggin' source. The
one guy in news that always has an opinion is a good source. He's got an opinion, or he knows factually just about something on everything. Well, we have it from a reliable source. I'd like to meet Mr. Reliable or Miss Reliable Source.
Yeah,
you never do.
That's the problem with the mainstream media today is they have literally encouraged those stories. This goes back, I think, to Watergate. Deep Throat. Remember Deep Throat? Deep Throat was a unknown
in a parking lot,
confidential source, and Deep Throat didn't come out of the shadows. Deep Throat was always in the shadows, somebody that could not be identified because that person didn't want to be compromised. So, and after a while, that spread into other news stories. Our reliable sources tell us, or a source that doesn't want to be identified says that when I was a young man in broadcasting, news people, I can remember news directors saying, if you don't have a source, don't go with it. If you can't name who said that, we're not doing it. They had
But
standards.
now you can get away with a reliable source, and that means you can do creative writing. In other words,
Yes.
the reliable source is the voices in your head or where you want to take this story. Well, I have an unconfirmed report, and it's just your imagination. That's the unconfirmed report.
Absolutely.
Creative writing or wishful thinking, whatever you want to call it.
Or
that's
lying.
your
The other,
lying, yeah, But, you can tell a lie long enough, and it does become the de facto truth.
Well, that's what Joseph who was it? Goering said. Joseph. Was it Goering? Yeah, he said. I'm trying to think who the. Oh gosh, I'll think of it after the show. The guy who was the media marketing guy for Adolf Hitler. Goering.
Well, he was right. I mean, you tell look, you tell something long enough, people assume it's the truth, and that's because people are shallow. They don't dive into it themselves. They take your word. So I'm telling you, the good case in point of that, in my estimation, is global warming. Where it's man-made. But
I was wrong. It was Joseph Goebbels. Yeah.
Goebbels, yeah.
Yeah. I should have known that, but he had to be a pretty sharp guy, Bill Goebbels, because he was a bad guy because he was selling the evil of the Third Reich, but he was effective at doing it to so many people, especially early on. Early on, he sold these people a wolf in sheep's clothing, and got him into a position of power. He did things like they financed the motion picture industry during the war. Mm-hmm. The German government did. They watched everything. They encouraged things. They made sure that the production values were good and that it looked like a really top. But all the scripts were censored and supervised. That was the job of Goebbels and Goebbels as Al Sharpton. No, he calls it gurgles. Al Sharpton calls it gurgles. It's not gurgles. It's a gerbil. Anyway, the point of the matter is that we have a media right now that's one step better than the Nazi propaganda of World War II, because they're lying to the people. This is a statistic that came out yesterday. That the news is at an all-time low as far as reliability and trust. 13% lower than the public's opinion of Congress. And Congress has a low opinion in the public's eye right now. But the news media has just gone down the toilet. And I'm sure they'll pontificate and they'll question how did that happen? It's very simple if you pay attention. People can see you lie. People can they can fact check you on the internet instantly. I'll tell you the honest to God truth. Just now, when I couldn't think of Goebbels' name, right? While Bill was talking, I hit my cell phone and I asked Hitler's marketing propaganda person, and it came back in like a second, the name. That's how fast we can fact check stuff nowadays.
Right.
So when the news lies to you, people can ask the question, is this true? And then, you can say, well, no, it's not true. So people catching on. Anyway,
you got to hope they are, but, we think they are, but sometimes the numbers that we see is only the skim top of what's going on there.
So what happens today? Today there's more hearings. Today there's also going to be, I would imagine they'll be doing more negotiating with Hamas and Israel, trying to get the deal hammered down so that it really can go into effect. I just have my doubts. I don't know how Hamas does that, and I don't know how Hamas can be trusted. I would say, by the way, up front, if the negotiators are listening, I know they're not, but I'd say, look we want all the live people first. We want the living hostages first. Don't give us, half live and half dead. We want the people who are alive.
That's what I was saying. Let's get the living ones out first, get it over with, and then once that's done, I mean, by my estimation, based on that 30-1 thing and what you thought that they might have hostages,
yeah,
it looks like that Israel has 3,900 prisoners. So you're potentially releasing 39. You're releasing a whole battalion there.
Well, I mean, I know that Netanyahu is between, like I said before, between a rock and a hard place. He has promised to get rid of Hamas. He's promised to get the hostages back. I don't know whether you can do both effectively. Either you get the hostages, and this is where he's at right now, and I'm sure the pressure must be enormous. We need to get the hostages back. But I do think that the Hamas is making a big mistake if they think that Trump is not going to stand by his word.
They might be brave enough to challenge Trump because they might think the liberal media here will swing public opinion in their favor. And if you go, oh, that would never happen, look at when the attacks happened on the concert goers.
Yeah.
And the Houthis came in and did all the attacks. We started getting sympathetic within days for the opposing side. And I was like, what?
Well, Bill, we have a faction in this country that is kind of warped. You may say, what are you talking about? Well, look what happened with this Luigi Mangione. He shot the CEO, and all of a sudden there was a faction of people who started to make a celebrity out of this murderer, this killer, this back shooter, all right, backstabber. But I mean, this is a guy who didn't just kill somebody; he did it in the most cowardly way. He shot the guy in the back. Didn't even shoot him historically, that is the most despicable. Yet there's a faction of young people who look at this guy and think he's a friggin' rock star. Get a break.
Yeah, you don't hear about the guy anymore either, too. So what's going on with that? Well, we'll never know until after it happens.
Yeah.
We don't get a say in that. For all I know, they could be working on his release right now.
Marco Rubio had an interesting hearing yesterday. He was trying to make his point, and some of these Code Pink wackos. You would think, by the way, that the people who were charged with security at the Capitol would recognize these people for what they are.
They do.
Well, why don't they throw them out? Don't let them in.
No, they do. They do. Well, okay. Whose side are they on?
Good point. Yeah, that's a very good point, Bill. It could be intentional. Allow them in there to mess up the hearing.
Hey, come on, guys. Come over here. I'll let you through.
Yeah, you can sit right here, right next to Marco. Anyway, here's what it sounded like yesterday.
Democracy and prosperity in these regions.
We've had forevermore ever since. Little Marco, keep your hands.
Now there's commotion behind Marco Rubio. Oh, they're grabbing him by the scruff of the collar and.
Act order. All right, alliances emerged in the Indo-Pacific and in Europe that led to the emergence of stability, democracy, and prosperity, but it also prevented a cataclysmic world war.
It's funny. It happened at a key moment during his speech, too. It was like it was timed. But there was more to it. Rubio continued, and there was some other protesters in the crowd.
Pause.
Back to order. I get bilingual protests, which I think is an inch cool.
As you know, that's a first here for us, at least in recent times.
All right.
Education is a human right. Education is a human right. Sanctions against
Back to order.
All right.
Marco Rubio, he's a sharp guy. He really is. That was Rubio. It says, I get bilingual protesters.
Yeah, no, he was good, and he was calm, and he kept a good demeanor about it. But
Yeah.
again, who's the gatekeeper at the door? A gatekeeper, whether it's in a business setting or there at that that hearing, they control who comes in, and if somebody's got some ill intent, to sit there and be a rebel rouser. Why are you here? Because I'm going to rebel rouse. Get the hell out of here.
Some of them, Bill. Some of them wear pink hats. That might be a little signal. Hey,
yeah. Hey, that's a nice looking hat on you. Kind of goes with your green pants.
Anyway, also yesterday, Joe Biden bid farewell to a nation. I could hear my neighborhood applaud. It was amazing. But he was talking about all the great things they've done, all the serious things they've done.
What has he done great? Name one thing that he's done that's...
You're right. I first, let's see, Afghan war. No, that was a debacle. The borders, No, the borders have been bad.
Wait a minute. I know something he did that was good.
That? What was that?
His running mate, he gave the Democrats Kamala.
That's true. If he did anything good, he gave Kamala to the world.
He gave you Kamala.
That's true.
As his insurance policy to stay
but,
in office.
look how well he handled the hurricane situation in North Carolina. No, he didn't do a good job there either.
No.
The fires.
No, nothing good there.
Can you think of anything that he's done that has been, other than Kamala? Anything?
Well, Kamala was the only good thing. The only thing I could say about the fires, the only thing I can say about maybe in Tennessee and maybe in North Carolina, there seems to be land grabs going on now. Now, not California yet. They're saying that, but there's rare earth minerals like in North Carolina that they're going after, and now in Tennessee, there's some federal land grabs going on where you got to get off your property. It's ours now.
So you're saying that they're not even negotiating; they're just kicking people off their property.
Well,
wow.
Eminent domain doesn't give you a whole hell of a lot.
Yeah,
if the government comes in, it's theirs.
Yeah, and people say that we talked about this before, that they're thinking about making a new L.A. Maybe they're starting over in the Palisades area. Who knows?
There's talk that there are other cities and that could be up for this. Philadelphia being one, even New York, Chicago. We've talked about that, and now apparently after we talked about it, somebody in Washington's talking about it. Well, Mrs. O'Leary's farm, her cow probably wasn't the cause of the fire, and that's been history all throughout time. That
the story. I think Mrs. O'Leary's story is it literally kicked a lantern or something like that in a stall and started a fire. And
I'd have to go to the internet and look it up, but I'll just kind of paraphrase it loosely.
That's fine.
Paraphrase it loosely.
You're amongst friends.
But now 300 people died in the Chicago fire. Mm-hmm. All right. And now there was even thought that maybe a meteor struck it.
Oh,
and
wow.
caused the whole town to burn down. That was one of the theories, too. But, over in Wisconsin.
Yes.
Another small town.
Oh, yes.
Caught on fire.
Yes.
And what was it, 3,000 or 10,000? There was
I'm trying
thousands
to think.
of people.
What town was that? You keep talking.
Same time.
That's true. Now I'm trying to think of the name of the town. But there was a terrible fire in a Wisconsin town around the same time.
The very next day.
Wow. I'll find it out later on. I'll find it. When I'm looking, I'm trying to find the information. You stop talking, which makes for a very quiet program.
Because I was typing here too.
Yeah, it makes. But that's not how it works. One of us have got to keep talking. Anyway, yesterday, Victor Davis Hanson was on with Jesse Waters, and they were talking about Biden's farewell last night. His bon voyage, and Hanson is usually a very reserved guy. He's usually Mr. Calm, Mr. Even Keel when he gives an answer. He's just that's the way he is. Victor Davis Hanson, I like him. I think he's really a smart guy. But last night he was doing a review on Biden's farewell speech, and he couldn't keep his composure. He literally started to laugh. You got to hear this.
What is he talking about? Is that a legit warning?
The subtext of that was that all of the so-called oligarchs that supported him in 2020 got tired of him. So Mark Zuckerberg gave him $419 million to warp the 2020 election in key states, and he had no problem with that oligarch. Reid Hoffman, another billionaire, funded the E. Jean Carroll suit to go after Donald Trump. He had no problem with that oligarch. He gave the Medal of Freedom, Citizen Freedom, to George Soros, who pretty much did his best to destroy the criminal justice system in our big cities. So he's not credible. And when he talks about misinformation, the FBI conspired with Facebook to censor stories about the laptop that it was authentic, which it was. And then 51 so-called authorities supplied him on the prompt of Anthony Blinken before the debate with Donald Trump in 2020 to lie that it was Russian disinformation. They cooked it up. He cooked it up. Joe Biden via his own future Secretary of State. So it's just this projectionist party, Jesse. You saw today with the confirmation hearings. Do you start with the person and then do you invent the crime, Pam Bondi? Well, yeah, that's what you do. That's what you did with Donald Trump. You know that none of those indictments would have ever gone forward if one of two things had happened. It hadn't been Donald Trump, or if he had just said, I'm not going to run again. Then they would have dropped it. But they picked him, and then they invented the crimes that'll never be brought against anybody else because they were fictitious. And it's sad.
You know, VDH.
They didn't even make an attempt.
I have had you on the show for many years. I've never seen you giggle like this. I've never seen you so tickled at someone's hypocrisy. It's just, even you can't keep a straight face. You're just happy it's his last speech, right?
Yes, I cannot keep a straight face. They didn't even make the effort to be serious. Not even an effort. And they had no idea what they were up. What did they think they're doing? People like Pam Bondi and Pete Hegseth are masters of optics and TV and repartee and extemporary dialogue. So they put them on there and they had them for dinner. And they're shocked. What did they expect? It was just silly. It was like David and I don't know. It was sad.
You
sad.
mean like you mean the disheveled senators? They can't even have their tie on straight and can't even get a word out.
No.
And they thought they were going to go up against a polished TV host.
Yes. When he was talking about sex, I thought he was talking about Doug Inhofe. I really did.
All right.
I did.
VDH, so, I'm glad we made your evening. I'm glad. And I'm also glad it's over, but I'm glad we made your evening. And it's good to have you on.
Jesse Waters with Victor Davis Hanson yesterday. And by the way, that's the Peshtigo fire in.
Well, there was actually another fire.
The Third Ward fire. But the one that you were talking about, I think, it happened the same night as the Chicago fire, and it killed between 1,200 and 2,500 people and injured 1,500 more.
Yeah, and 1.2 million acres gone because you're talking the Holland fire. Well, there's Chicago fire, the Holland fire. They say it started from the same cause as the Chicago fire. So that cow kicked a hell of a lantern shot there. Yeah,
had a mean leg,
now.
Didn't it? Holy smoke.
Oh, man. I mean, football teams would have wanted that cow with that kick. And then Prestigo. So there was something more going on, but I do remember, and it was the Prestigo one that I recalled, but then I found out, there was the Holland fire too, all the same time. So Chicago, the night Chicago died and burned, let me tell you something. The story that you have been told over the years has been a lie, and because
the Peshtigo fire. It burned 1.2 million acres and destroyed 12 towns, including Peshtigo and Brussels, Wisconsin. The fire killed between 1,200 and 2,500 people, injured 1,500 more. The fire was caused by small fires used for land clearing that grew out of control. They didn't have the equipment I don't know how. God bless them.
But isn't that kind of odd?
Well, look at. I think that they still haven't got the Southern California fires under control. We're just not talking about it, really. I think I mentioned yesterday they've only got like 17% under control, and they're talking about the winds kicking up again.
Oh yeah, there's something bad coming that's brewing up, and I'm going like, yeah, they're using the weather conditions, but they're setting fires out there. I mean, that's been seen, and yet they don't do anything with these people. So there's something. What's the word? Nefarious that is going on.
There is.
And let's put it that way. But you know what? That is not gospel truth because I say that. It's my speculation, but you figure it out. How many separate fires have started and they keep starting? And now, they're I guess where they can control it and put it out, they're using a pink powder, whatever that is, to put out the fires, which is causing irritation and problems. I mean, none of this is painting a very pretty picture.
No. A few other things I want to mention before we wrap today's program up. Mike Pence has an organization called Advancing American Freedom. Who cares, Mike? Nobody. Anyway, they've launched a full-scale assault on Donald Trump's nominee for Secretary of Health and Human Services, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. This is Mike Pence. Mike Pence, a man who can never say there are no flies on me because there are. All right?
Yeah. So who's paying him?
Probably some
water company.
There's somebody paying him. Yeah. I agree with you. That's a very good. I didn't even think about that, but you're right.
Yeah, he's getting money from somebody somewhere, some way, somehow. He's being paid.
All I know is that when Pence and his wife Karen were at the Carter funeral, Pence shook Trump's hand, but Karen didn't, and it was quite obvious. I guess she's ticked off at Trump. For what, Karen? Your husband turned his back on Trump when he needed him the most. The guy was a turncoat, as they would say.
I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere along the line that towards the end, he was all a part of it.
Bill, there are people out there who are scared. I can't say it because we're not that kind of show. But
tearless?
They're scared to death. How's that? Because
tearless, yeah.
If Trump
makes them cry, and they got no more tears to cry.
If Trump gets into office, a lot of people are worried that the gig is up for them. That he's going to really put the hammer down.
Well,
when I hear them say in these hearings, well, are you gonna prosecute somebody if Trump tells you to? She won't have to do that because they'll just look at the evidence that's already there and say, these people did this, and this. We have to indict them. It's going to be that.
Well, the people that they're desperate, and desperation can lead to some very bad things, and they are desperate that Trump does not get into office on Monday. So it's a short hop between now and Monday.
They've got to really protect his. They've got to protect him big time, Bill.
I don't know how you can fully protect him. I mean, there's a lot of things that they could do. I'm not going to discuss because maybe it'll give somebody an idea.
See where another confirmation hearing, the one for Kristi Noem.
Yeah,
it's on hold.
FBI has stalled it because
Well, the FBI they said they have all the paperwork, but for some reason they're slow walking. They're slow walking the process for her.
Okay, why would they slow walk it? What do they know? Do they know something that they're stalling things?
What she's
not
up
about her.
She's up for what? What secretary of what? Transportation? No, I can't think. What is she? She's up for I can't think of what she's up for. Yeah, but anyway, I think they're literally trying to make it hard for some of these people to get into office. They wanted to drag Pete Hegseth through so much mud. They figured that he could never get voted in a positive way. But actually,
they were wrong.
Now they're saying he's a shoo-in. So
yeah, he did well with all of that. I'm trying to find what she's up for. Here it is. She is Up for the DHS secretary.
Human Services, right? Health and Human Services?
Yeah, Department of Health and...
or is that Homeland Security?
Homeland Security, that's
all
what
right,
it is.
Homeland Security, okay.
DHS.
The other thing I wanted to point out before we wrap today's show up is that people are wondering, what's up with Michelle Obama? She didn't go to the Carter funeral. It was a stag viewing with just Barack there. And now she's not going to the inauguration. And people are saying that things are not all that rosy in the Obama house, and there's talk of the D word coming their way.
Well, you know who else has got a house that's on shaky footing?
Who's that?
Kamala.
Mm-hmm.
I've been hearing rumbles there, and that's not me making this up. This is,
Well, if you want to go into the realm of speculation, I heard that I heard this yesterday on a radio station out of Washington, D.C., by one of the talk show hosts. He implied that the current First Lady has had some liaisons, let's just say, with one of the Secret Service people on her detail.
Yeah, that actually, I've heard that too. And you kind of wondered because, the only reason she stayed around Joe so long is power.
Yeah.
I think that she enjoyed that. She didn't deserve the position. And
did you see the farewell speech at all last night? I watched about the first 15 minutes of it, 10 minutes of it, and he started to mumble again, and I thought to myself, I can't do this. I can't do this. I tried, and I tried for our audience because I wanted to be able to say I watched the whole thing, but when you start to rumble and mumble and fumble. It's like, okay,
you can't watch Joe, but here's my suspicion of what's going to happen. I don't think Jill is going to divorce Joe or leave Joe, but there is a possibility that we are going to be seeing another former presidential funeral.
Either that, or he's going to end up in an assisted living home in the not too distant future because of a decline in his capacity.
I don't see him being around that long. I really don't.
Well, it is. What do they say? It is a tangled web they weave when they try to deceive, and I think a lot of these people have been deceiving us for years, and it's starting to catch up. And a lot of the people who thought that there would never be a comeuppance because President Trump would never get back into office again. Well,
again, that gets back to the one good thing that Joe Biden did, and that was picking Kamala.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, actually, it's kind of twofold because he picked Kamala, and then he kind of stepped aside and left the Democrats with that choice. But, Pelosi helped out in that too, and maybe Barack. And Schumer, said, yeah, we can sell anything.
Yeah.
Apparently you can't, guys.
Well, hey, listen, before we leave, we want to remind you that we have a gift shop. You're saying, well, I thought you guys were just like radio guys. Well, we don't really stand around and sell stuff personally, but we have a gift shop. It's online. All you have to do is go to rightsideshop.com. rightsideshop.com. I mean, you can't forget that. rightsideshop.com. And you'll find all of our little trinkets. We have sweatshirts, T-shirts, hats, cups, glasses, and we have Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee. This is not just your ordinary bland cup of coffee. This is the finest roasted coffee beans you can find, all put into one fine bag, packaged so nicely. It's a medium blend roast, by the way, and a medium decaf roast blend. You'll love it. You'll love it. And you got to give it a shot. It's Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee. It's at rightsideshop.com. And, of course, we are the only coffee company that have Juan Jose and the Border Crossers sing our jingle. And they're here right now, anticipating one more moment of of spotlight for them. They want to step into the spotlight and sing their song, so it's all yours.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
They do a marvelous job on that, really.
And
Although
they're
they
available too for executive meetings, bar mitzvahs,
funerals, whatever,
funerals,
whatever.
birthday parties, whatever. I mean, you got the money, honey. They got the time.
You got the money, honey. They got the time. I like that. Anyway, that's about it for us. It's been an interesting program. Lots going on in the world. It's going to be another crazy day, I think. Every day is getting crazy. Do you think that we're going to have any surprises, Bill, between now and Monday?
Are you asking me?
No, I'm asking the guy behind you. No, of course I'm asking you. Yes.
No. Well, besides...
No, I'm asking you, Bill. Bill, I'm asking you.
Absolutely, I do.
You do.
I think there's going to be some more. There's going to be some more shenanigans going on.
Well, I hope that the protection detail for President Trump is the finest in the world. I hope that they've thought around every corner and behind every window, and I just hope to God that he is safe. I do think that his being president is going to have a massive effect, not on just the United States, but the whole world. Now, it's amazing. You say to yourself, he's just a guy. No, he's more than that. He represents a movement of people, a movement of not just people, a thought, a lifestyle. He represents the direction we want to go in as a society. We don't want to go in this leftist lunatic free-for-all fall that we've been in for the last 4 years. We want the old-fashioned constitutional way. Boy, I could go on and on.
Boy, you're dreaming there, huh?
Yeah.
No, actually, you're not dreaming. We got Trump, and but they're gonna throw some last-minute Hail Mary stink bombs at Trump. The media will. They'll try to drum up old stories and just recycle them, rewrite them, and then throw it out there again as the old new allegations, whatever they can do.
And hopefully it is a good day. Hopefully there's nothing major. By the way, we remind people, as is our policy, if something really big happens, something that you can't wait till tomorrow, we'll do some kind of an update later on if something major were to happen. But most of the time that doesn't really happen. But if it does happen, we'll be here with an update. That's it for me, my friend. Anything you want to add before we leave here?
No, there's a lot I'm sure we could talk more. I know we can talk more.
Yes.
I'm looking at it, but let's see what pans out today in the news, and then tomorrow. I think a lot's going to happen today and tomorrow as we head into the weekend. And quite honestly, even though the media shuts down, I think it's going to be an active weekend because the Bidens are hell-bent on scorching the earth before Trump sets foot into the White House. Oh, there was something.
Have you heard anything more about the drones? I'm just curious. That's I've heard it's like it fell off the news cycle, but I hear that they're still out there. The drones are still flying around. It's just that no one cares anymore. You had one more thing you wanted to add, Bill?
Well, besides Trump's going to be signing 100 executive orders, I guess he's going to appoint make some kind of presidential appointment on cryptocurrency.
Really?
And that happens on Monday. So, which could all of a sudden introduce essentially $100 trillion, instantly into everything. And I was thinking about it going, cryptocurrency is basically kind of a new standard. So depending on what they do with that.
I also hear they're going to have a new division called the External Revenue Service.
This is for the tariffs.
Yeah, I love Trump. You talk about imagination. He's the guy who gave us the Space Force, right? Now we have the External Revenue Service. And he said he'd like to see it replace the Internal Revenue Service.
Yeah, and the crypto thing I'm talking about, he's going to do a crypto executive order on day one to put cryptocurrency into play. So that's what he's planning to do. So, which is causing Bitcoin to go up over $100,000 a coin. There's other coins out there that even though they trade for very low amounts, you might be able to get something that's, essentially a penny coin, and just the tide of it, you could buy 1,000 shares and all of a sudden have some,
some substance.
Nice little
yeah.
Substance.
I don't know enough about Bitcoin yet to be talking about it, but it seems interesting. I was thinking, I'd love to see the External Revenue Service take over and eliminate the Internal Revenue Service. And then it occurred to me that also the External Revenue Service might be the place that they move a lot of the internal revenue employees to. So he doesn't have to fire a whole lot of people. He can change their purpose. You need accountants. You need people who are handling money. You need enforcement. It's all there. Just change the purpose of the organization to external revenue.
Give them a new role, and a role that can help themselves and us.
Absolutely. That's exactly that.
Redefine their positions.
Yep, I like it. I like it a lot. Hey, we can, we promised to end the program like 5-10 minutes ago.
You keep talking.
And
I'm
done. You wrap it up when you want to, all right?
All right, I'll wrap it up right now. Hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.